Yeah, the new Bridget Jones film has got us talking again, this time about the scenes featuring a white owl believed to be a sign from the late Mark Darcy.
So here's a question for you. Do you believe in guardian angels? Author and spiritual teacher Carl Gray believes we're surrounded by angels all the time. We just need to learn how to look for them. And he joins us now. Lovely to see you, Carl.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be
You
here.
were saying that you've been on this morning back in 2012.
Yes, first book.
So 12, 13 years ago.
Yes.
And I'd imagine that from your perspective, when a film like Bridget Jones comes out and there's this creature in it, an owl, that everybody is perceiving or talking about being this sort of the ghost of Mr. Darcy. That must be quite exciting to see that sort of being seen on...
Yeah, I feel like it's just normalising the conversation. So many people believe they've had a personal encounter. It's around 8 million people in the UK.
Is it really?
Yeah, so it's a lot of people saying, you know, that they've been visited by an angel or a presence. And a lot of that is through nature. So, like seeing an owl sitting at your window every night, like they do in the movie, gives them that confirmation that something else is out there.
Because sometimes it's not kind of big, dramatic incidents or anything like that. It's something that is very pertinent and personal to you, and it could be even the smallest thing.
Yeah, and what I loved about that movie was at the end, everyone had a different perception of what the owl meant.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, that we all have our own personal experience and take from the experience what we need.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, talking of personal experience, sorry, Ben, what was your first personal experience with an angel, and what first kind of opened your eyes to it?
It was actually with my grandmother. We were both in wheelchairs. When I was growing up, I had Guillain-Barré syndrome, and we were in the same house, both in wheelchairs, and we formed this really amazing bond. And then one night, my grandmother was moved to hospital, and I went to bed. A neighbour put me to sleep, and I woke up, the light off, and my grandmother was at the bottom of my bed, and I just remember feeling so loved. And she wasn't in a wheelchair. And then the next morning, I told my mum about it, and she then revealed to me that my grandmother went to heaven.
Wow.
So ever since then, I've had this big question of, if she went to heaven, then why did I see her? And lots of people just thought I was dreaming, but then over the years, I had lots of different encounters and experiences to feel like I wasn't alone and something else was out there.
Yeah. And what do you say to people who are really sceptical about it? Like, you say that, oh, you're just dreaming.
But I think if you are sceptical, then that's OK as well. Like, until you have your own personal experience and you can say, oh, my goodness, that touched my life, then that's OK. It's OK to be sceptical about these things, and I think that's also healthy.
Yeah.
Because so often, I think, when we think of angels, you think of beings, human beings with wings. But it doesn't have to be that. It's kind of more of a feeling.
It's a feeling, and I think that's the most important thing. So many people say, I don't believe in angels because I haven't seen one, but there's so many people who have felt a presence or found a feather or had this feeling that there's a sign being sent their way, and that's an angel to me. And I think that's...
Lots of people contacting us and talk about feathers quite a lot. This is Carmel says, not long after my grandfather passed away in 2018, I came back from the school run to find a little white feather on my doorstep. It was a bit of a windy day, but the feather stayed put. My sister had one on her doorstep a week or so earlier too. And that's a regular theme, isn't it, feathers, white feathers? Yeah,
it's kind of like the angelic business card, you know, and you find it, it's like them leaving a little message to say they're being close by.
You describe yourself as an angel communicator.
Yeah, well, angel, because, and that's more like, for me, it's about opening up to a sign and looking out for it. And a lot of people kind of come to me with their signs and say, you know, what does this mean? But the one kind of message that I say is that no matter what the sign you experience, it's really a message that you're not alone and that you're on the right path. Signs only show up when you're on the right track.
Which can only be a positive thing, actually. Or if it helps you deal with grief in some way, shape or form. What would be your advice to people, anybody sitting out there who wanted to open themselves up to it a little bit more?
I think it's just about either internally or out loud saying, I'm willing to have an experience, and if angels are real, thank you for sending me a sign.
Right.
You know, and just being open to that. And what I always say is, when you get a sign, you know it's a sign. There's a feeling that comes along with it, as you said.
Yeah.
It's a feeling of being comforted, reassured, or a sense of warmth that you're not alone.
There might be people watching today that would be sort of kind of desperate for a sign or a sense that something else is happening out there. I mean, can you sort of manifest that happening? Is it, or do you have to sort of sit and let it hit you? I
think there's people who kind of fish for signs as well. Like, every time you walk past the microwave, you're looking for it to say, like, 1111 on it or something like that. But I think when real signs happen, it's in a way that you couldn't have prepared for it. It's right in front of you, and it's like, wow. Just after my mum passed away in November, was driving down to jiu-jitsu, it's my hobby, and I was speaking away to my mother in the car, and then a car pulled out in front of me and it said Diane on the registration, which was my mother's name. So it was just kind of like, what was the chances of this, like, fancy, you know, car pulling in front of me with this...
That had that number plate.
Yeah, and it was just like, I couldn't help but want to pull my phone out and take a photo, you know?
Wasn't there another incident with your mum as well? After she just died, you had, like... She brought you up, didn't she?
Yeah.
Together. You guys were a single family. And you had a password.
Yeah, so when she couldn't pick me up at school, she would send a neighbour to pick me up and they would say sausages, which was our password. So before Mum passed away, she said, do you remember the password? And I said, yes. She said, I'll send you that. And the day she passed away, the family friend who's a minister who actually said, I keep thinking about this story your mum told me about you when you were younger and all you would eat was these wee willy winky sausages. and she said it to me that night and I was like, she's like, why do I keep thinking about that? And I was like, because that was my mum's password. It was her way of telling me she's made it there safe.
You mentioned people walking past microwave and looking for numbers. 1111.
Yeah.
There's something in the combination of numbers that people look out for.
Yeah, and that's another funny thing. We're on the flight here. The cabin crew came up to me and said, I've got your book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was so cool. And inside I wrote 444, which is the angel number, and then she pulled out her necklace and it was 444 around her neck. So, like, people see numbers as a kind of way of, like, a sign that angels are with them.
It's so funny because it could be coincidence, but it just seems so pertinent.
Yeah, and it's kind of undeniable to me. I'm just, like, used to this happening all the time everywhere I go.
OK, so if people want it to happen to them, what do they have to do?
Yeah, I'm open to experiencing a sign, thank you for revealing your presence, and then see what happens.
And do you just kind of say that in your own head?
Internally, you can do it when you're driving the car, you know, it doesn't have to be anything special or lighting any candles, just internally, I'm willing to have an experience. Thank you for telling me you're there.
Bridget has got in touch saying, a white dove comes to visit my windowsill every year on Christmas Eve. My dad died on Christmas Eve 30 years ago. Whoa. I know it might just be a coincidence, but it brings me comfort, which I think is what we've all said. And then Amanda says, a couple of weeks after I lost my mum, a little radio I brought back from my house switched itself on and there was a big feather on top of my bag that appeared from nowhere. So similarly, it could be a coincidence, but it was a sign for Amanda.
We can't deny other people's experience. That's the most important thing.
And if it brings them comfort, I think it's good no matter what. Angels Are With You Now is by Kyle Gray. It's out now. Thank you. Very nice. Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every day. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. And we'll see you in the morning.